The last time space was considered a battleground and mighty nations of the time competed for its superiority was back in Cold War era between the United States and the Soviet Union. The tensions between the nations shook the entire Earth, and their battle raced to the depths of space when both powers competed to achieve superiority in space. Times have now changed, but the looming war to achieve superiority over space and the cosmos still lingers with the change in competitors. It is safe to say that China emerged out of nowhere and took the whole world by surprise. And as the time shifted, the nation became a massive space giant with their technology so rapidly advancing that everyone went forward to applaud their efforts. Now, calling the PRC an emerging space power would not sound right, as the nation has already achieved superiority to unprecedented levels, but the nation's space agency is seen as a threat by some, particularly the US itself. With its rapidly advancing technology in both space and weapons sector, the mighty US fears that China could aim and strike their satellites. In today's episode, we are going to uncover if the space war is really as serious as it looks, as China holds the power to destroy US satellites and achieve a deadly superiority in space. A satellite shoot-down threat has always been looming over the US head after Russia shot down its own satellite back in 2021 to test their satellite and demonstrate their power of destroying satellites if they need to. While this threat has cooled down gradually over the period of time, the Chinese development has freshened the US nightmare of targeting their satellites. One of the biggest targets that China could lay in their crosshairs are the Starlink satellites. This threat from China holds even more significance as the relationship between Starlink and Chinese space agencies has heated up after SpaceX broke safety rules in space last year, triggering a heated response from Chinese officials. The Chinese developments in the space sectors, as well as their rapidly modernizing army, especially the Air Force, has worried the nation's opposition. The US officials have already stated on multiple occasions that the Chinese modernization has took them by surprise, and they're advancing their technology much faster than US anticipated. Brad Bauman of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies reported, "China has the means, and has had the means for a long time, to disable our satellites either with direct ascent weapons that actually destroyed them with on-orbit capabilities that involved electronic warfare and directed energy. And that is not all. China also holds a nuclear anti-satellite weapon to target satellites." The scientists concluded that a nuclear blast in near space could form a radioactive cloud over an area as big as New York State that can cripple or destroy satellites in near-Earth orbit. Researchers at the Northwest Institute of Nuclear Technology in Xi'an, run by the People's Liberation Army, claim to have developed a model to estimate the range and scale of damage a nuclear anti-satellite weapon can cause at different altitudes and yields. The findings by the researchers suggest that a 10-megaton warhead could create a severe threat to satellites if detonated at an altitude of 80 kilometers. Such a nuclear blast is expected to turn air molecules into radioactive particles and produce a cloud with a shape similar to an upside-down pier, said nuclear physicist Liu Lei and his colleagues in a paper published in the peer-reviewed journal Nuclear Techniques on October 15. In 5 minutes, this cloud could rise to an altitude of nearly 500 kilometers and expand over an area exceeding 140,000 square kilometers, as reported by the Eurasian Times. Satellite destruction poses a major threat towards the neighboring satellites and equipment. This is mainly due to the space debris problem that has overtaken the cosmos in the past few years. If a satellite is eventually shot down, it will release a large number of debris into the space, which will join the rest of the bodies in orbit around the Earth. These tiny and larger objects can then collide with other satellites and even destroy them in worst-case scenario. If done so, this begins a sort of chain reaction which can target further satellites, and these satellites could even be owned by the nation that launched the attack in the first place. Moreover, space debris is also seen as a prison around Earth, which can restrict further space missions. We have already covered an episode on this topic, so be sure to check it out if you're looking to explore more about the space debris problem in detail. U.S. Defense Department officials have also recently put Russia and China on notice. Unsurprisingly, they announced that attacks on satellites could warrant a military response. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin stated, To defend our country and prevent conflict, we will rely on integrated deterrence to make it clear to any potential adversary that the risks and the costs of aggression far outweigh any conceivable gains. The Chinese military has also developed various types of ground-based weapons that could blind or damage a passing satellite with a laser beam. But these methods are relatively easy to detect, so Chinese researchers look for other ways to target satellites by placing explosives inside them. The explosives are packed into a bullet-shaped device that weighs only 3.5 kilograms and mirrors the shape of the de Laval nozzles that power most satellites. These are pipes with a narrow throat in the middle that converts gas into kinetic energy, and, although they are based on a 19th century design by the Swedish engineer Gustaf de Laval, are still used on the most advanced satellites today. China conducted its first anti-satellite test in 2007, destroying a defunct weather satellite with a missile and drawing international criticism over the cloud space debris it created. The United States and the former Soviet Union had conducted a large number of similar experiments during the Cold War, but these tests stopped after the 1980s because the debris puts valuable space assets and astronauts at risk. China's anti-satellite program in recent years has focused on technology that would produce little or no debris, such as capturing a satellite with a net or robotic arms. One of the most worrisome stances for US in the recent times has been the growth of China's nuclear arsenal. Importantly, many US officials have stated that China might have already surpassed US in the terms of nuclear race. With growing bases, technology, and power, China's nuke growth has stunned the world. The US may no longer enjoy a numerical advantage against China in certain elements of its intercontinental ballistic missile program, according to Strategic Command, which oversees the US nuclear arsenal. Stratcom recently sent a classified determination to Congress pursuant to a clause in the fiscal 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, which requires congressional notification if China overtakes the US in at least one of three components regarding its ICBM stockpile. China's hypersonic capability has also grown massively in the past years, and combining that with nuclear arsenal is extremely deadly for the nation's opposition. China now has more than 300 ICBMs in launchers, but that's still less than the United States, which has approximately 400 ICBMs and 450 ICBM launchers. The US had 1,389 warheads on a total of 665 deployed ICBMs, submarine-launched ballistic missiles and heavy bombers as of September 2021. According to the Congressional Research Service, it is safe to say that the worry has overtaken the US Congress as the discussions have heated up even more and more over the opposing threat. On top of contending with China, US also has to keep up with Russia's arsenal, which has seen a halt amidst the Russian-Ukraine crisis. Henry Sokolsky, the executive director of the Non-Proliferation Policy Education Center, questioned whether the US could maintain its vast numerical advantage against China's nuclear arsenal if Beijing continues it. He stated, "I don't know how long it takes for our system to get another 1,500 warheads in place on our missiles. It could take a while and cost an awful lot. If you're going in that direction, is there any reason to believe the other side is going to just wait while we catch up? I don't think so." With much about the heated-up space war, with China's ability to destroy US satellites, and China's growing nuclear arsenal covered, it is time to wrap this one up. If you have any topics in mind, comment below and we will cover them for you. As always, subscribe to never miss out, and we will see you in the next one.